graffiti scene has always been saturated with a ton of great solid paint sticks and solid streakers, almost all of which are great quality for graffiti tagging, especially within the freight scene. You see big, well-respected graffiti artists using things like Sakura solid streakers, and lately you even see some more expensive gimmicky ones like these hand-mixed solid streakers being used by those artists as well. And for a lot of you guys, I'm sure you're just like me, and the first thing you think of when you hear solid paint stick is the legendary Markals Bs that have been around for decades. And we have done tagging tests and surface tests with all of those solid sticks and more, which you can see. But there's one option that you almost never see anyone using: the Ganko solid marker. Now, out of all the solid paint markers and streakers on the market, these Ganko solid streakers seem to be used among the least. But why? That is what we're here to find out today as we do a tagging test and a surface test, as we find some different surfaces to tag up subscribers' names and patrons' names from our Patreon page and really get a feel for how they feel specifically compared to some of the other options that are more popular. Now, the Ganko solid streaker is made by Magic Ink. Yes, this Magic Ink, the same one responsible for bringing us the glass body marker that we all love, which we recently got to tag with in the video right over there if you want to check it out. But my point is, it obviously comes from a very reputable company, right? So why isn't it all that popular? Here are two reasons that I think it's a little bit less popular. Number one, it's still relatively hard to get. At the moment, there are a couple online retailers in North America that have started stocking these, those being Artprimo and bombingscience, but in large, it's still a lot more common to see Sakura streakers, hand mix, Markals in your graffiti shops generally. And number two, these run between $3 and $5 US depending on where you get them from. Now that price is comparable to some of these other options, but it's definitely not a steal either, so that might be contributing to them being a little bit less popular. And although those are two sort of economical reasons why these may not be as popular as some other solid streakers, that doesn't mean you can't use this Ganko solid streaker to lay down some sick styles and font work, just like all the great stuff you see on those freight trains in our graffiti freight train watching series, which might be returning soon, you never know. But in my opinion, freight graffiti has always been about font work, and these are font work to me. And if you did want to improve your font work for free, you can become a member of Skillshare, who's been kind enough to sponsor this video today. And how can you use Skillshare to improve your tags? Well, let me tell you. Skillshare is the largest online learning platform for those of you who want to learn anything creative, whether it be old school character drawing, font work, calligraphy, or even something entirely different like freelancing and how all of that works for business owners. They even have a few really good graffiti classes on there. I was really happy when Skillshare reached out to me again, because I've always said one of the best ways to improve your graffiti tags all the way up to your pieces is improving your font work and your knowledge of calligraphy. And that is exactly what I have been using Skillshare for. They have a ton of different classes to up your calligraphy game. I'm sort of binging as many of the sort of beginner level ones as I can, because all the fundamentals in there are really the most important. And I find personally they make the biggest difference for me when I'm designing more complicated pieces actually. And the best part is I was able to get you guys a 1 month free trial of everything on Skillshare. The first 500 people to use the first link in my description will get a 1 month free trial of Skillshare. The first link in my description. I've enjoyed using it. I'd recommend joining. You can explore any of the content they have on the whole platform there for free for an entire month, and you can even cancel before the month is up at no charge. So if that sounds like something that you want to do and you want to up your own styles, first link in the description, get your 1 month free trial. So right now we're going to start off by doing some tags on a bunch of different smooth and rough surfaces with the Ganko solid streaker, but we're going to directly compare it to the Sakura streaker and the Markals B paint stick, because those are very likely paint sticks that more of you are familiar with. So this will help me tell you the differences between how the Ganko feels compared to especially something like the solid streaker by Sakura. So I want to start on a smooth surface like this just to show exactly how soft these are. And then don't worry, we're gonna find some more common surfaces you might want to use something like this on out in the wild. So I just want to say, with the first few tags we've done with the Gankos solid streaker here, I did not realize how soft and buttery these are. A lot of people are not going to like this, but I do have to say the softness, the butteriness of this Gankos solid streaker absolutely puts these Sakura streakers to shame. Why is it so sticky, bro? The first thing you'll notice, I did so many tags on this extra smooth surface, and you know, it barely ate anything up out of the Gankos solid streaker. One of the ways you can tell just how soft this thing is because when I pan across these black tags we did, you can see how thin that layer of paint actually is. So what that tells me is, even though these are more expensive generally than, say, your Sakura solid streaker, they will last you for more tags, simply because you're not going to be putting down as much paint for your smooth surfaces per tag than you would be with these Sakura streakers. Now, the only time that that's not the case is when you start getting to those rougher surfaces. I'm talking about like rough wood, concrete. As soon as I did any tags on this rough wood, the tips started being completely eaten up very quickly. And I started feeling like, to get any kind of opacity, I would have to be pressing very, very hard on this and eating through this very quickly. So the first takeaway I want you to get from this is that this tool has much more specific uses than a general solid streaker, such as a Markals paint stick. This thing, you do have to be a little bit more careful about how smooth the surface is you're writing on, just because you do want to get your money's worth. If you're gonna buy something this buttery and this nice, you do feel like, because of how buttery it is, you do have the complete freedom to make whatever kinds of lines you want. There's no stickiness. One thing I hate about these Sakura solid streakers is they're all freaking sticky. This is why I don't use these. Why are they so sticky and dumb? I've had so many that are like this, and I've been told by a lot of the Sakura connoisseurs, if you will, that the black and the white seem to struggle with that, but like these other colors I have always struggled with that as well. I just don't get it. If it's not all of the Sakura streakers and it's just some, that's totally valid, but at the end of the day, this ain't the same as this. That's all I can say. But you know, I want everyone to like what they like, as long as you're comfortable writing with it, and whatever tool you're using becomes an extension of your arm, you know, and lets you put your thoughts down on the wall. That's the most important thing, right? Don't let anyone else tell you what stuff you should be writing with, what stuff you can't use. I will say right away, one thing you notice about this is the cap does not go on the end of the marker. That's a little bit annoying, but the screw-on system, very, very nice actually. It screws up, you can screw it back in as well, so it's a two-way system. The marker itself and that twist-up system feels much, much nicer than a hand mix or a Sakura streaker. It feels much more functional, a lot less cheap, if you will. Just so everyone knows, I'm sure you got this by now, but there's a bit less volume when you buy these Gankos solid streakers compared to like a Markals or even a Sakura streaker. I think if you get the full-size Sakuras, this is a mini one. And just so everyone knows, I did put links in the description to where you can buy each of these products for the cheapest. With the Markals and Sakuras, they're actually cheapest if you buy them in bulk from Amazon for like 12 packs. You can get them for about $1 each and $2 each if you do it that way. For the Gankos solid streakers in particular, I'd recommend that you actually go to a few different graffiti sites, because I found there is a lot of variance in the prices of these Gankos. So you can get some for some reasonable prices if you hunt around, whereas on some other sites they're pretty highly valued. But check the description for links to all of these, of course. I just want to quickly say, with respect to writing on glass, with this hand mix, even the hand mix is a little bit too sticky to effectively write on glass. Whereas the Ganko solid streaker, no problem at all. You can just write however the hell you want. There's very little resistance associated with the Ganko formula. So when it comes to these rougher surfaces, like I said before, they eat up the tip on these Ganko markers quite quickly, and it feels sort of bad, feels sort of like a little bit wrong to be getting rid of such a buttery formula so quickly by, you know, just letting a rough surface eat it up like that. And honestly, I do think the opacity when you use something like a Markal B, a paint stick like a hobo marker, rather than a streaker like this, is actually a lot better when you get to these rough surfaces like this. So I would actually 100% recommend you use a hobo marker on rough surfaces rather than this Ganko solid marker. This thing is exclusively, to me, only smooth surfaces. So one of the main takeaways I want to say here is be very mindful about what surfaces you're using this on. Now we're gonna go find some surfaces out in the wild just to see how this performs on them very quickly, but my inkling is that surfaces in general are just a little bit too rough in your outdoor wild environment for this thing to be economically used, but we'll see. So we are starting off on a rougher surface here. It's obviously a concrete, and you know, the results are pretty much the same as with the rough wood indoors. But when we did get to this sort of smooth metal, I was actually surprised at how well this writes on smooth metal. Not much trouble at all on there. I thought that even like the dirtiness of some of the outdoor smooth surfaces would be enough to sort of throw a wrench into the mix for the Ganko, but you're still getting those nice opaque complete lines, and it actually felt really, really smooth and nice on that particular metal. Felt very, very writable. So if anything, I think this just shows that even in, you know, some smoother outdoor conditions, with that natural dirt and grime, the Ganko still works really, really well. Honestly, that was quite surprising. Alright guys, so I think I finally figured out why these aren't all that popular, and it just has to do with the formula itself. This is a great solid paint streaker. The formula is buttery, it's gorgeous, and you know what, writing on smooth surfaces really is what this thing specializes in. But that is also why it's not all that popular. The reality is a lot of people using solid paint sticks are graffiti writers. They're out there doing their tags, enjoying life, right? And this formula is simply too soft for that to be viable, and that is why I think these are a little bit less popular. You just burn through them a little bit too quickly when you're trying to use them on rough surfaces like we saw in our surface test and out in the wild as well. So I think it just does come down to what kind of formula you like writing with. If you do like writing with smoother, buttery formulae and you're a normal Sakura enjoyer, this could be something you really enjoy as well. Whereas if you're used to rougher hobo markers and you like buying stuff cheap like the hobo markers, this will feel good if you use it on the right surfaces, but you're not going to be a fan of it if you're approaching the same surfaces you would be approaching with your normal Markal B or your AP hobo marker or whatever it may be, right? That's how you're going to want to figure out if you want to test this out for yourself. If you want to see my ranking from worst to best of every single solid paint stick and streaker that I have ever used, we made a video on that. You can check that video out on screen now. I'll see you over there soon. Again, big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to go and claim your 1 month free trial. It's the first link in the description, and you can cancel anytime. Until then, peace.